You've probably heard of the Old Testament. But what if I told you that its original Hebrew name, the Tanakh, isn't just a name, it's an acronym? Think of it like a code that, once you understand it, reveals the three core sections of this ancient library. And no, this isn't just a different name for the same book, it's a completely different way of looking at it. The name itself holds the key to its own brilliant structure, a design that has guided one of the world's oldest faiths for millennia. So, let's break down this acronym and explore the Torah, the Nevi'im, and the Ketuvim. For a lot of people, the Bible feels like a single, massive, and honestly, pretty intimidating book. It's often laid out as one long story, from start to finish, but that flattens its rich and complex texture. The truth is, the Hebrew Bible isn't one book, but a library, a stunning anthology of law, history, prophecy, and poetry put together over centuries. Getting a handle on its three-part structure is the most important key to making it all make sense. This structure isn't random, it tells a story all by itself. By the end of this, you won't just know what the Tanakh is, you'll get why it's arranged this way, and how that order gives it a unique meaning that the Christian Old Testament, with its different arrangement, doesn't have. The Torah. First up, the foundation of it all, the Torah. This is the T in Tanakh. Now, you've probably heard Torah translated as law, but that's not the whole story, and frankly, it's a bit misleading. While it definitely contains laws, 613 of them, according to tradition, the Hebrew root of the word means to teach or to guide. A much better word for it is of instruction. The Torah isn't just a divine rulebook, it's the ultimate instruction manual for a new nation and the epic origin story that sets the stage for everything that follows. The Torah is made up of the first 5 books of the Bible, which you might also know by their Greek name, the Pentateuch. In Jewish tradition, they're called Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. These 5 scrolls lay out the entire narrative and legal foundation for the rest of the Bible. It all kicks off in Genesis with the creation of the cosmos and the story of early humanity. We meet the founding families, Abraham, Sarah, Isaac, Rebekah, Jacob, Rachel, and Leah, and see God's promise to make their descendants a great nation. From there, the story flows into Exodus, where that very nation is enslaved in Egypt. This is where we get the epic tale of liberation, with Moses leading the Israelites right through the parted sea and into the desert. And it's out in the wilderness, at the foot of Mount Sinai, that the real instruction is given. The newly freed people receive the heart of God's teachings, including the 10 Commandments, and the covenant is officially sealed. Next is Leviticus, and while it might look like a dense list of rules about sacrifices and rituals, it's actually a manual for holiness. It's trying to answer a huge question: how can a flawed people live in the presence of a perfect God? It even gives blueprints for the tabernacle, the portable sanctuary that was a symbol of God living right there among them. Numbers picks up the story of Israel's journey through the desert. It's a bumpy ride, full of rebellion, struggle, and the consequences of losing faith, all of which leads to 40 years of wandering. Finally, Deuteronomy is presented as a series of powerful farewell speeches from Moses right before the people enter the Promised Land. He recounts their history, repeats the most important laws, and begs the new generation to stay true to the covenant. The Torah ends powerfully, with the death of Moses as he looks out over a land he himself will never get to enter. This 5-part foundation is the most authoritative section in the Tanakh. Everything else revolves around it. It tells the Israelites who they are, where they came from, and what their relationship with God is supposed to look like. Without the Torah, the rest of the Bible is like a sequel without the original film, it just doesn't make sense. The Nevi'im. The second major division of the Tanakh gives us the N in our acronym, Nevi'im. This Hebrew word simply means prophets. This section picks up the story right where the Torah left off, following Israel's life in the Promised Land. But it tells that story with a very specific spin. The Nevi'im isn't just history, it's interpreted history. It's the national saga told through the eyes of prophets, messengers who spoke for God to explain current events and call the people back to the instruction of the Torah. The Nevi'im is split into two parts, the former prophets and the latter prophets. This isn't a ranking of importance. It's about their literary style and place in the timeline. The former prophets cover the books of Joshua, Judges, Samuel, and Kings. In many Christian Bibles, these are just called history books. And sure, they are historical. They tell the story of the conquest of Canaan under Joshua, the chaotic and often bloody era of the Judges, the rise of the monarchy with King Saul and the golden age of King David, and the reign of Solomon, who builds the first great temple in Jerusalem. The story then follows the nation as it splits into two kingdoms, Israel in the north and Judah in the south, and tracks their long, slow decline until they're conquered and exiled. But calling it history misses the whole point. In the Hebrew Bible, these are prophetic books because they're carefully crafted to show how Israel's destiny was directly linked to its faithfulness to the Torah. They're one long case study of the blessings and curses that Moses warned about in Deuteronomy. When the people and their kings follow the Torah, they flourish. When they chase after idols and injustice, they fall apart. These books answer the question, what happened? The latter prophets then swoop in to answer the question, okay, but why did it happen? This section has the books we usually think of as prophetic, the big three, Isaiah, Jeremiah, and Ezekiel, plus a collection of 12 shorter books known as the 12. These prophets were speaking in real time during the rise and fall of the monarchies and the exile. They weren't fortune-tellers predicting some far-off future, they were fiery social critics and divine messengers for their own generation. They held a mirror up to society and essentially shouted, "You are breaking the covenant." They spoke truth to power, calling out corrupt kings and priests. They condemned the exploitation of the poor and the kind of empty, go-through-the-motions religion that ignored the Torah's demands for justice and mercy. Jeremiah warned Judah for decades that their unfaithfulness would end with Jerusalem in ruins. Ezekiel, speaking to those already dragged into exile in Babylon, explained that their catastrophe wasn't a sign that God was weak, but the direct result of their own choices. But the prophets weren't all doom and gloom. Woven into their fierce warnings was a powerful message of hope. Isaiah speaks of a future restoration and a new, ideal king. Ezekiel has this incredible vision of a valley of dry bones rattling back to life, a vivid promise that the nation of Israel, though it seemed dead and scattered, would one day be restored. The Nevi'im, as a whole, is the story of Israel's messy, beautiful, and tragic journey with the covenant, how they tried to live it, how they failed, and how God promised He would one day fix it all. The Ketuvim. This brings us to the final letter in Tanakh, the K, which stands for Ketuvim. The word just means the writings. So if the Torah is the core instruction, and the Nevi'im is the prophetic story of Israel's attempt to follow it, then the Ketuvim is a vibrant, sprawling collection of, well, everything else. It's a divine grab bag of poetry, wisdom, songs, history, and short stories. This section is all about the many different ways the people of Israel responded to God and wrestled with what it means to live a life of faith. The Ketuvim is easily the most eclectic section of the Bible, and that diversity is its strength. It opens with what's known as the books of truth, Job, Proverbs, and Psalms. Here we get the full range of human expression. The Psalms are basically the prayer and songbook of ancient Israel, with 150 poems that cover everything from wild praise to heartbreaking sadness. Proverbs is a collection of sharp, practical wisdom for navigating everyday life. And the Book of Job is a profound and difficult poetic drama that tackles the brutal question of why good people suffer. Within the Ketuvim, there's also a special little collection called the 5 Scrolls or Megillot. These 5 short books, Song of Songs, Ruth, Lamentations, Ecclesiastes, and Esther, are each read aloud in synagogues on a major Jewish holiday. For instance, the beautiful story of loyalty in Ruth is read on the festival of Shavuos. The raw, gut-wrenching grief of Lamentations is read on the fast day of Tisha B'Av, mourning Jerusalem's destruction. This connection to the calendar gives these books a special place in Jewish life and worship. Finally, the Ketuvim wraps up with several other important works. You have the apocalyptic visions of Daniel, the historical accounts of Ezra and Nehemiah who led the return from exile to rebuild the temple, and finally, the books of Chronicles. Chronicles actually retells the entire story of Israel, from Adam all the way to the exile, but it does so with a special focus on the line of King David and the temple. And it's no accident that the Hebrew Bible ends right here. The very last verses of Chronicles record the decree from King Cyrus of Persia, giving the Jewish people permission to return to Jerusalem and rebuild their temple. It ends the entire Tanakh not on a cliffhanger, but on a command: go home, rebuild, and hope. So, there you have it. The 3-part structure hidden in plain sight, right in the name of the Hebrew Bible, the Tanakh. The Torah, the foundational instruction. The Nevi'im, the prophetic story. And the Ketuvim, the diverse human response. This isn't some conspiracy, it's a masterpiece of literary arrangement. Seeing the Bible as this 3-part library helps you appreciate the rich conversation happening between its pages. You can see the deliberate story arc that doesn't end with a prophecy of a future messenger, like the Christian Old Testament does with Malachi. Instead, it ends with a call to action. A command to return to the land, to rebuild what was broken, and to look toward the future. It's the story of a people given a divine instruction, struggling to live it out, and finding countless ways to respond with wisdom, worship, and incredible resilience. Which of these 3 sections, the foundational Torah, the prophetic Nevi'im, or the creative Ketuvim, sparks your curiosity the most? Let us know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed putting this biblical puzzle together, make sure to like this video and subscribe for more explorations of these amazing ancient texts. Thanks for watching.